KNOC Radio. It's the Hard Rockology Show with Chris and Matt. We turned our effing mics off, Gail. We had a guest on. That's why we had that Behringer one on, so sorry about that, listeners. Anyway, that was Electric Sister, I Want It All, and we heard Rev Theory before that. What was the name of the song? What was the Rev Theory song?
Rev Theory song? Why are you asking me?
Because you're the note guy.
Didn't you pick the song?
Loaded Gun.
Loaded Gun from their second record. Hey, there's our phone call.
Go ahead. All right, go ahead. You got it?
I do. You ready?
Yep, ready to go.
Patching it through.
Thaddeus, you're on the air.
I'm on the air.
All right. Great. Thaddeus, lead vocalist from Electric Sister. Welcome to the Hard Rockology Show. Glad you can be here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Right on.
Yeah. Great new record so far from what we've heard. We liked every song of it. That's what attracted us to your website and your band, actually, to put it on the show. Right, Matt?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, like I said, thanks, Thaddeus. I appreciate you giving us a call. Do you like going by Thaddeus or Thad?
I go whatever's easier for you. It's
All right.
okay.
So I'll just call you Thad, okay?
Thad's easier, I think, for us because it's only 4 letters. Thaddeus is like this whole drawn-out name, so I guess we'll go with that. We'll try both, all right? How's that?
That sounds good.
All right.
Yeah, so... Yeah, okay. Okay. Actually, no, my brother's absolutely right. We heard the album, and we thought this was a great album, and the surprise to us was that you guys were an unsigned band. Are you guys still an unsigned band right now?
We're still an unsigned band, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I guess the question should be asked: how did you guys put together such a great album and produce it so well and get it released like that? Is that just a labor of love, or what was the process involved in doing something like that?
Well, it was definitely something that we have. You know, we all got together to make a good record and be a band, so it was definitely a labor of love. But the people that we ended up meeting down in Los Angeles ended up really producing it. The Dennis Hill, really made it sound hot, and I think the production was the fact that we took so much time on it, and they wanted it to sound good, opposed to us just wanting to get it done. I think they cared. It's made it a little better, you know.
Yeah, it's got a great sound to it. It's a little bit different than what we're hearing now, but it sounds like something the sounds like goes back maybe like 20 years in the 80s, I would say, but it's not like a hair metal sound. It's just got that more, it doesn't, like we talked about on the show last week, it doesn't have that compressed sound to it. You know,
right.
You can hear all the instruments, the vocals are right there, you can hear everything. It's a great rockin' sound. Who produced the record?
That was Dennis Hill.
Okay.
He's produced, I'd hate this, I'm going to say something wrong, so his name's Dennis Hill. He's a great musician and turns out to be a great producer, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things that I noticed about it is it's definitely a good blend of hard rock, and it also has some elements of punk in there as well. Was that something
Right.
that you guys were trying to do, or is that just the different types of influences that all the band members brought to the table when you guys put the album together?
Well, definitely we're influenced by punk. We didn't want to come across too metal, we love metal, but we don't, punk has that attitude, that anger that I think we wanted to try to keep just try to have a little bit on the record and not so flashy and shiny. Just a little bit of attitude goes a long way. So we think it worked out pretty well.
No, I mean, the album sounds great. I've been doing some research on you guys, and for the most part, the band primarily got together just a couple years ago. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're pretty much a new band. Yeah, we've been a band 2 years.
I mean, how does that process go? I mean, did you have some material written? Somebody else have some material written? Or exactly how did this Electric Sister come together and in such a short time put out such a great album?
Well, we all, when we first got together, it was just from random people in different bands in the Bay Area. And then when we did get together, people just had riffs and we just throw the riffs around. And then, songs took a long time to turn into songs. But the music was all written, all of us just kind of wrote it together, and it came out. It was very organic until we got into the studio to record the record, and then, the production, we took some time to make sure the songs were all thought out and weren't just thrown together riffs. So once we got into the studio, the songs really took shape. Our live shows didn't really matter. It was more like on the album, it took some time to get the songs to sound the way they sound on the record, which, it took a while, so.
I mean, I'm trying to go through some of the players in the band. You got a couple.
I was just gonna ask him, who's the other band members in your in Electric Sister? This is Chris.
Hey Chris, how's it going, buddy?
Pretty good.
Well, there's Jason Lucero, there's Nick Hernandez and Eddie Calmeres, and we got a new bass player named Scott. And it's just a bunch of dudes playing rock and roll. It's not too wild, It's the same old,
So what's the difference between you guys say you're from Oakland? So is it a big difference playing up in Oakland and then you come down to L.A. and play on the Sunset Strip? I would imagine you played there already, right?
Yeah, we played there. I think it's a little different just because we're a little more intense than a lot of the bands, it seems like, that are out there. When you're playing rock and roll and we're kind of an intense band, we move a lot on stage. A lot of bands we see on the Sunset Strip, they're not quite as intense, and we bring a lot of punk rock into our stage show, which I think might throw people off in Los Angeles. But up here in Oakland, it's just fine. People are expecting a little more. A lot of death metal and grindcore, a lot of heavy music is up here in the Bay Area. So people are used to seeing that, a little more craziness. But bring it down to Los Angeles, and they're used to a little bit more like the sleaze rock, and it kind of takes them by surprise. But they like us, LA likes us, so we're blessed in that aspect,
That's great. That's great. It kind of reminds me of the Metallica story when it wasn't happening in L.A., so you went up to the Bay Area, and look what happened to Metallica.
Yeah, that's the funny thing you say that, because that'd be a great analogy.
So who are some of your influences when you were growing up? Did you start off just being a singer? Did you play guitar? Did you play any other instruments?
I started off probably wanting to be as much like I don't know. I love 80s metal. I was listening to your guys' podcast or listening to your radio show, and I was listening when you guys were talking about Mick Brown and his driving drunk in the golf cart.
Uh-huh.
and I remember my brother took me to go see Dokken in like '95 when they reformed, and I did Dokken, so I've become a big fan of Dokken, and they're coming up here to Oakland in September. I'm all excited to see him, but when I read that article on Mick Brown in the golf cart being drunk, I just thought that was classic, perfect rock and roll story that you just never hear about anymore,
Well, speaking of that, I mean, do you yourself have any of those classic rock and roll stories up there? I mean, I've heard some stories about the band, and you guys are pretty entertaining and could get a little wild. At least that's what I've heard. So is there any truth to any of those stories?
Well, we used to blow fire. Jason used to blow fire on stage, and we were playing the Cat Club on the Strip, and it was pretty packed show, and there was so much fog on stage. He blew the smoke up, and it burned their lights. They're like, I guess, the colored film that colors the lights, and he burned those, and they all started dripping down. And then the security had to stop the show, but then we ended up finishing the show, but then they banned us from the Cat Club. So that was a pretty good one.
Well, you know what? Those are the stories that a lot of people out there want to hear because
that's like a Spinal Tap story.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was pretty Spinal Tap, and then it closed, so we feel better that the Cat Club's closed. So because that was a cool place to play. We were kind of bummed for a little bit, but that story seems to live on. So.
Well, I guess they closed because they banned you. So I guess you could look at it that way.
Yeah, they figured, well, Electric Sister's not playing here anymore, so we got to close.
I think they closed because Electric Sister melted their lights.
Yeah, Electric Sister melted our lights. We got to close shop. Sorry.
Yeah,
so.
we're on a tight budget here. Now we can't take care of the lights, so we got to close up shop. So.
Yeah, that's one way to spin it. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I was also reading that you guys are there's some kind of voting going on for the opening slot for the Motley Crue Kiss tour.
Yeah, it's put on by the radio station 107.7 The Bone up here in I think they're based out of San Francisco, and they got 10 bands, and the 10 bands you vote the top 5 go down to and then the top 5 Motley Crue and Kiss are going to pick the one band to open up for them up here at the Concord Pavilion in Concord, and we're in the top 10, and the voting ends tomorrow, so we'll probably find out sooner or later what's going to happen with that. But that's a pretty exciting opportunity for us. So, you know, we've got our fingers crossed, and we've got a lot of friends voting for us and trying to make this happen, you know. That's kind of one of those once-in-a-lifetime things, you know.
Yeah, you can only vote at the radio station, or is there another place to vote?
I mean,
just the radio station. You would go to 107.7 The Bone, and then you go to the Kiss and Motley Crue Bone Bash, and then they'll say vote for your bands, and then you register and you pick our single "I Want It All," the video, and it's a good opportunity for us. We're really excited.
And just so our listeners out there, if you like what you heard.